Welcome, everybody, to our webinar today. Merry Christmas to you and Happy Hanukkah. We are so happy today to be here on the last day of Hanukkah, the 8th day, and it is very symbolic, as you know, that we are standing in the midst of a war with Israel, having been through what we would say is maybe the most difficult and trying times since the Holocaust, since early days, and maybe since the beginning of the nation of Israel. It has been an extraordinary time, and they have had to fight like the Maccabees fought so long ago. We are in the last day of Hanukkah. Israel is in the midst of war, and many of you are following that so closely, have been like watchmen on the walls. As you understand, Israel is really and truly in the fight, not unlike the Maccabees, for the state, for the Jewish state, for the importance, the critical importance of their deterrence in the region, in the Middle East region. And it is unlike anything, of course, in our lifetime, in our generation. And I just want to take a moment to thank and introduce Eran Glazer, our national director for the National Leadership Center in the city of Ariel, Israel, and also our former ambassador, Ambassador David Friedman. What an honor to have him with us today. Both of these are heroes to the state of Israel, have played a major role in forerunning and clearing a way inside the nation on respective fronts. And I want to just first of all mention that this webinar is really my tribute. It's a tribute to the National Leadership Center, to the efforts that are going on, have been going on there for a decade inside that area called Judea and Samaria, that critical biblical stretch highway that is emblematic, not just of the nation of Israel, but for all of us represented there in our biblical heritage. The National Leadership Center stands proudly on the hills of Ephraim and Samaria, and has become the center, the premier center for the rehabilitation efforts for the nation. You can imagine a nation at war, a nation in trauma, families, mothers, and who've lost their sons, and husbands who've lost their wives, and children who've lost their parents. A time like no other. Israelis displaced from their homes, over 200,000 in the middle of Israel, in hotels, displaced off the borders. It's a time like we haven't ever seen. And I want to just say my hats are off to the efforts that are going on at the National Leadership Center. It takes a village to make this work, a fine team of people led by Eran Glazer. And you can imagine just the PTSD. You can imagine that as we look at the statistics, over 85% of young children right now have really been through some sort of a trauma as a result of this war. So it is comprehensive and it is deep. And I want to thank the National Leadership Center for the work that they're doing. We've got quite a bit to accomplish in 2024, and we're looking forward to sharing that with you. Ambassador David Friedman, I just want to thank you for being my friend and my partner along the way for these last 5 or 6 years that we've known each other. And I want to thank you for being with us today, as you are called on so often as you're leading in your own right inside the United States of America, being a voice for Israel, representing Israel in such a strong and candid way. And I want to just begin with you, if it's okay, asking a few questions. The first one I want to ask is just that, recently Prime Minister Netanyahu equated the October 7th massacre on Israel's southern border to 50 9/11s. Now, that is really something. 50 9/11s. That's 50,000 plus people that we would have lost in the United States in comparison to what Israel has lost with their little population. With the numbers of families who've lost multiple children, who have multiple children in the war, husbands, wives, fathers who've lost loved ones, it's a very deep trauma inside this nation. And I know that you, David, have met with a lot of the families of the hostages who've lost loved ones. What has impacted you the most? And give us a perspective and a picture of this national trauma?
So I think the key word there is trauma. I mean, it's traumatic for everyone who lives there, whether they've lost someone or not. Obviously, people who were directly affected, who have family members who were murdered, who were kidnapped, who lost family members in battle. They're suffering the most, but it's a country that's suffering across the board now. And I think the key is really to is seeing is looking right into the face of evil. As bad as 9/11 was, and it was it was indescribably bad. um the people who committed it, they all died, right? I mean, they all committed suicide, and we never had the trauma
Mhm.
of looking them in the eye, or seeing, or listening to them, or seeing them on video, or seeing their we did unfortunately see plenty of people celebrate, and many Palestinians celebrated that, but what we're seeing here is, it's like looking into the face of the devil, and when you do that, you get to a different place. You get to a place where you say, you know what, there are evil forces that we're surrounded by in Israel, and there's just, I think people are just scratching their heads, like, the people that most of the people that were involved in this, that directly involved, people living in the South, people that were attending the rave music festival in the South, these were not right wing people. I mean, these were people who very much believed in the essential goodness of humankind, that people ultimately could be brought to peace, that people could be brought to goodness, that every person really was inherently good, and we just needed to find a way to bring that out.
Hmm.
And now we're looking at it and saying, yeah, that's not always true. That's just not always the case. I mean, in this case in particular, I don't know how many people on this call saw the 47-minute film of what really happened.
Hmm.
If you see it, you'll never be the same. And no one who sees that film can reach a conclusion that there's not evil in the world, and that the evil doesn't continue to exist to this day. That's what struck me. I mean, obviously there's thousands of human tragedies, that are going on one by one. But the big national tragedy is that Israel, is surrounded by people that want to kill them, and it's not about economics, and it's not about leadership, and it's not about housing. It's just about a desire to kill Jews, and that's a very, some people kind of understood that empirically. I mean, that's not far from my view of the world, but it's very far from the view of most Israelis, who really did think that there was a brighter future, a brighter day, where there was really an opportunity for real peace. And that day is, if that day comes, it's certainly very far off.
It seems like it. It really does. We're with you on that. It has been stunning. I think the world, the good world, the Western civilization is really stunned by it, as we've watched in horror the pictures and the things that are coming out. And so just thinking about that, David, we had nicer and sweeter days. I look back in 2018, and we hosted you. In the city of Ariel, and you were the first U.S. official to cross the Green Line and to come into Judea and Samaria, to a Jewish community. You came to the city of Ariel, to the National Leadership Center. We had a high time. We hosted Palestinian business leaders there with you, and those business leaders still today want to do business with Israel. Talk about some of the spiritual implications for you, just even making that decision to do that, and then to come across the Green Line, to come to a Jewish community. And I know that wasn't far-flung for you, but it was far-flung for a lot of people that you would do that. And what were some of the efforts that were accomplished under the Trump administration that we hearken back to?
So I think, let me unpack that in a couple of ways. The Ariel visit was obviously significant because of where it's located. It was also significant because of what's happening there. I mean, the center that you've helped to build there is is an extraordinary place. It will be an extraordinary place regardless of where it will be located. It's just a great place because, especially now at a time when the country is going through such trauma, it's a place where people can really get out and they can learn how to depend upon each other, and they can learn how to they can breathe a little bit, and they could learn so much about who they are and how and how they relate to each other, and restore some confidence and sense of hope. So it's a great place, again, regardless of its geography. Now the geography is makes it even more important. I mean, Ariel is one of the most important cities in Judea and Samaria. It is largely it is largely a secular city. It's not a city that it's a city where I think very few people. It's located, I guess, first of all, geographically, it's right smack in the middle of Judea and Samaria, and it's a place that has thrived and flourished and continues to grow. And it's the site of a now of a university. It's a site of a medical school, the only medical school in Judea and Samaria. It is a place of commerce, and it's a place where people want to live and want to go. And obviously, because of the university, you have people coming there in large numbers every single day. It's therefore kind of a poster child for continued Jewish life in Judea and Samaria. Now, I mean, Judea and Samaria is, includes all of biblical Israel. Ariel is not a particularly significant biblical area, but it is, as I said, it's a place where so many people live that it really anchors the population, the Jewish population inside of Judea and Samaria, and it's right in the middle. So it's not like you can't carve up, Judea and Samaria in a way that leaves Ariel, somehow in
Right.
hostile hands. So it's a very important strategic city. But the real importance of Ariel is in terms of anchoring Judea and Samaria, is that it anchors the rights of the Jewish people to their biblical homeland. Because when you think of Judea and Samaria, I mean, it's what others call the West Bank. But if you think about it, and I would encourage people, when it comes out, it should be out in another few weeks on Amazon Prime, the movie that I made with Mike Pompeo called Route 60, the Biblical Highway. Route 60 is a road that goes from north to south within Judea and Samaria, and all the Bible stories that anyone is familiar with, whether it's in the Old Testament or even in the New Testament, they occurred on this road, or within a kilometer or two of this road. From begins in Nazareth, it continues to the city of Shlem, where there's significant, amazing Jewish and Christian significance. You can see the altar of Joshua on the Mount of Eval, or the Mount of Gerizim, all biblically significant, down to Shiloh, where the tabernacle rested for 400 years, and Samuel was born, and Hannah taught the world how to pray. You go down to Bethel, where Jacob had his dream of the ladder and the angels ascending up and down to heaven. Then he hit Jerusalem. Then he hit Bethlehem, which of course people are familiar with, and then to the city of Hebron, where Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah are buried. You pass through Rachel's tomb. Rachel's the only matriarch who wasn't buried in Hebron, who was buried on the way to Bethlehem, and it's a very important site today, all the way down to Beersheba. So if you think about the story of the Bible and all the events that occurred with the Bible, they occurred all on this road. That's all located inside of Judea and Samaria. Now, I love the city of Tel Aviv. It's a great city. It's got incredible commerce there. I love Haifa, but that's not really biblical Israel. Biblical Israel is Judea and Samaria, the land that God promised to the Jewish people. He made those promises to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, to King David, to King Solomon. He made those promises in Judea and Samaria. The trek by Jesus to the temple, whether it was in from his days in Nazareth going south, or whether in his birthplace in Bethlehem, all on this road. And of course Jesus spent so much of his meaningful time in Jerusalem. So the Bible is really alive in this area, and we cannot give it away for so many different reasons. We can't give it away for religious reasons, those of us who believe, because God gave it to us, and you can't give away something God gives to you, especially when it's the subject of so many biblical covenants. It's also an area where, if it was not controlled by Israel, it would put Israel at an existential risk from a security perspective, because it's kind of smack dab in the middle of the state of Israel, and if it were put in hostile hands, Israel could be sliced in half, and it's an existential risk. So Ariel is that kind of one of those major anchors of the Jewish people in Judea and Samaria, and for that reason, and of course because of all the incredible things that go on there, most importantly, the learning
Mhm.
center that you were so instrumental in building. It's a really important place.
It is. Well, David, it was just so it's amazing that just when you were ambassador, just the incredible effort that you made with just getting State Department language changed, so many things that really nobody has ever touched, and it was happening under the Trump administration. Just removing the boycott off of Ariel University. I mean, just so many things. The recognition of Judea and Samaria is Israel's biblical homeland and right to exist. And we were making so much progress, and it feels that we've been a bit set back. So as we look at, David, as we look at just so much conversation now is surrounding the post-war plan for Gaza and Judea and Samaria. And I recall the Peace to Prosperity plan. I would just imagine that not everybody on this call has read all 153 pages of it. I did. But it is the most comprehensive and detailed Middle East peace plan that has ever been devised, with a focus on prosperity for the Palestinian people. And of course, it was turned down. It wasn't even read by the Palestinian Authority. Do you think there is relevance for that peace plan today, given the current circumstances? How would you revise it if you could, based on the circumstances? And what would you include in the vision regarding a plan as it concerns Gaza as well as Judea and Samaria?
So that plan is, at least in my view, that plan is not fully relevant today. It's got some concepts that I would retain. Look, I think the economic part of the plan is still important. Meaning, I think that to the extent we can revitalize the economies in Gaza and in Judea and Samaria, and they can be, especially Gaza. I mean, because of its geography. I mean, it's same beachfront as Tel Aviv, and I remember Gaza.
Right.
I'm
Right.
I'm old enough to remember Gaza when Israel was controlling it, and it had some really beautiful places. I mean, Gaza can be rebuilt in a way that could be really magnificent, and I think significant commerce could be brought to Gaza and to the Palestinian populations in Judea and Samaria. Where I wouldn't go anymore, I think it was kind of a one-off opportunity for the Palestinians, and at this point, I think that's really not viable anymore. Is this idea of kind of split sovereignty, where Israel would have some sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, and the Palestinians, under the right circumstances, would have their sovereignty? It doesn't work. You can't. We've seen. I think we've seen too much. I mean, look. You can write all kinds of things on a piece of paper, but at the end of the day,
So true.
you have to live with people, right? And I think the ability of Israel to trust in the good faith of the Palestinians is gone, and probably gone forever. I mean, they can live. We have to live together. I mean, the bottom line is that there's millions of Palestinians living there, and we have to find a way to live together. And we can find ways to live together, hopefully through economic opportunity. But that phrase that I hate, that we all hate, about that begins with the words "from the river to the sea."
Yes.
Um, the opposite has to be the case. From the river to the sea, Israel has to have sovereignty over this land, and obviously, if you're a believer, that's God's will. But
Right.
even more importantly, look, there's only one country in this region that actually works. If you think about, if you measure on the basis of GDP per capita, which is a good metric, Syria and Lebanon are like $2,000-3,000 per capita. Jordan is maybe $7,000 or $8,000. Egypt is 7,000-8,000. Gaza is like 2,000, and Israel's like $55,000. It's in the top 10 in the world. And Israel is the only country that has the capacity to export to the Palestinian people real opportunity. And they got to be careful about doing it, right? Because there's lots of security risks. But if we can kind of put to the Palestinian people the following choice: if you want to kill us, if you want to kill us, have at it. We'll finish this war, and we'll win the war. Okay.
Mhm.
But those of you who don't want to kill us, those of you who are willing to surrender, and I suspect there are actually millions who do,
Right, right.
then surrender and live with us. And there was a concept in the Bible about about a permanent resident. People are allowed to be permanent residents of territory. It's a biblical concept that I didn't think of it. They they
Mm,
they should, they should the ones who are willing to live in peace can live in their homes there and continue to live in peace and hopefully with a lot more prosperity. But
mm,
they have to give up on the idea that they can destroy Israel, and they have to give up on the idea that they're going to create a state, because there is no state that they could create under any circumstances that will be benign, that will live in peace with Israel. I mean, you just can't watch that film and say, yeah, we're going to take a flyer and let the Palestinian people have an army and have arms. I mean, you can't. You just can't. I mean, it's too much of a risk for the state of
mm,
Israel. I thought it was too much of a risk before October 7th, but I think
right.
even those who kind of wishfully hoped for a Palestinian state that could live in peace, I think after seeing that film, I just think it's dead. And that's actually good news, not bad news for the Palestinians, because the Palestinians have no leadership. There is no Martin Luther King in
Right.
Palestinian society who's going to bring them to that place. On the other
Mhm.
hand, if they live in a state that is run by Israel, which knows how to run a country, which has a demonstrable ability to create a peaceful, prosperous environment for everybody, including, I mean, the best example being Arab Israelis who are
Mhm.
citizens of the state of Israel.
Mhm.
There is a path to a better life, but it has to be under the overall, sovereignty and control of the state of Israel. And I think there actually are many Palestinians who hope for that day. I don't think they have any more trust in their leadership than I do. And
Right.
wherever Palestinians have led in that region, they've led in a way which is autocratic, corrupt, misogynistic, hostile to all different minority groups, not just Jews. And so I think in the future, what this horrible incident has taught all of us, those of us who weren't there before, I think that this horrible incident and the video of it and looking at how people have reacted to it and the abject evil and cruelty, I think what it's taught us is we have to, shift gears and move in a more practical direction.
It sounds like it. It's just, there's so much hope. You want to put, as you said from the very beginning, David, you just want to believe that people are good, and you want to believe that we can have hope and that there's a way forward. And right now, it just seems that has darkened. So we will light our Hanukkah candle tonight. How about that? Our last night of Hanukkah, we will light the candle in the anticipation that God somehow knows how to reconcile this. He knows how to bring the biblical prophecies to fulfillment. And we see in Ezekiel 36 that Israel will have the land, that the sovereign Lord says, it says 12 times that Israel will have the land. So somehow it's going to happen. We don't know how. And so it's out of the hands of man and in the hands of God. But let's not be fooled as we're watching our televisions over the Christmas holidays, as we go into the new year. Pressure begins to mount, and we continue to hear the refrain that there must be a two-state solution right now in the plan in order to move forward. That is a trick. That is not going to happen. And so
Great.
we need to be praying against that on our last night of Hanukkah, that Israel will not have to succumb and be overly pressured, that we will have a way out of that noose. And we need a way forward, but that certainly is not it. Well, David, thank you. And I want to just direct a question while you're here. I want to just mention to you, and this is for your hearing as well, but just in recent weeks, we have been inundated the National Leadership Center, as the Ministry of Defense, as the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, are directing people to the National Leadership Center. And we've got not just a few, we're going to end up with thousands of people in 2024 going through the process that we take, content process that we've been doing there for years, but now it's going to have an added dimension to that. And I want to ask Eran Glazer, we've got all this coming toward us. We've got therapists, we've got our trainers that have been so well trained over the years by you. We have a 10-year relationship with Israel's Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Education. We've had incredible support. But why? Why has this happened? Why is the National Leadership Center, above all the other places that this could happen, why are they being looked at as is this playing this major role in the rehabilitation effort? Help us understand, Eran.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Ambassador Friedman, for what you are saying. Thank you very much for that. Heather, I think the answer is with the relations that we build with the government offices. 15 years ago, the NLC, the National Leadership Center, opened. Since then, we have 100,000 people, more than 100,000 people that came through our programs. And it's an amazing number. But the relations is not just people are coming, and the relations are more deeper. We are sitting with the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Health, like you said, and we are custom our activity for them. Our activities is not just an activity, it's not just a program, it's a personal care about the people. There is a different kind of people that coming to the NLC. There are the sergeants are coming and the generals are coming, but we are able to be flexible enough to give and serve the ministers what they need. And because of that, in December, which is this month, in the middle of the war, in the middle of all things happening in Israel, we going to have 1,000 people, more than 1,000 people in the National Leadership Center coming to program, coming to healing. We have this week 500 soldiers and their families that came. They're not coming just because they're coming. They're coming because of the trust and the relations. They know that we are going to serve them the best. And in our activities, there are no activities that connected to children's parents, soldiers, wife, people that in this area. But we know to do it. We sat with their officers. After 3 days, we create a program, and 500 people came in one day. It's an issue of trust. They know that we are professional. We have a great reputation with them, and they trust us. And because they are trusted, they open the door and sending the people, the IDF sending his officers and soldiers to relax and to go out of the combat area to the National Leadership Center, because you know that they are going to relax, but they can talk, they can do the activities, and they're going to continue to know why they are fighting, And that's happening in the National Leadership Center, trust and relations. This is the only thing that's happening with all the activities that we are doing, because it's so much personally customized to the people that we are hosting in the National Leadership Center.
Eran, just on Sunday, there was and y'all been hosting and working with some of the families that were directly impacted from the October 7th massacre. And you were with those families on Sunday, and you were with the 9 units of the police that were there on October 7th that had to go witness that unbelievable horror, all in great need, all inside of a traumatized state. Tell us what you're seeing. What are the symptoms of this trauma, and then what are you doing to bring them out of this trauma? What is the process? Give us some eyes into it.
So in the 8th of October, which was the Sunday after this terrible Shabbat, I sat with my team, and we asked ourselves, how can the best way we can serve the people that suffered and have this terrible Shabbat, the darkness Shabbat. So we have 3 main audience that we are going to focus in, and this is what we started in day 1. The first thing that is really important, the audience and the people that was in the south in the 7th of October. These people saw the Satan was in this Shabbat. They saw horrible things, horrible situation that you cannot imagine. And Ambassador Friedman mentioned that in the 47 minutes. We saw that. And this is one group that we are going to focus since the 8th of October, and we are going to focus them in the future. And these people suffer from trauma. They have sadness in the eyes. There is a lack of trust there with everybody, with the government, and we see a desperate people that lost their dear ones, people that lost their houses, people that was with their pajamas. We walk in this Sunday that you mentioned, we want to hike with them, and they don't have shoes to walk because they left their houses without the pajamas on their bodies. This is the situation that people are refugees in their own country with all the things that happen around them. And it's break the heart. The second thing is the people from the IDF and the police that was there. There's people that fight bravely, lost their friends, lost their dear ones, next to them lost their commanders or soldiers, and these people needed to be taken care of. The trauma is not going to disappear. And the last audience is the children of Israel, national. There is trauma in the nation today. And we are going to heal them in the National Leadership Center and outside. We are coming with them with a very human being question. What is my purpose in life? Yes, after I lost the dear ones, after I saw the Satan, what is my purpose? Why I'm here? Why I need to continue to live? And to sit in the room, and we see children that are crying, parents that lost their husband two weeks ago. This is the audience that we are taking care of now. We are bringing them to the National Leadership Center. We are putting them out of the convenience area. The convenience area now is grief because they joined the family of grief in Israel. We are bringing them to the National Leadership Center. It's beautiful there. It's a different atmosphere. And then they can find a way to heal themselves with the programs that we have. And it's not just a day of activity. We need to invest in them in more. We are bringing people that are professional in therapy. But our strength is the human question that we are bringing. What is my purpose in life? How can I connect to the Bible and God? And the three of that is start healing these people and give them hope for the day after. And we are doing that with grace. And this is, in the end of the days, my team is broken because of the testimonies. But the smile of a child, parents that have a couple of minutes with his child to process what they saw in this Shabbat, this is our gift. And this is what we are going to continue with all the studies. Yes, we are going to have tears in our eyes, but our heart is brave, and we are going to bring this human question and help them to recover.
So good. It's really an incredible opportunity, one that we've been being prepared for really over a decade. And
yes.
So just in light of all of that, what do you feel like, what is your greatest need at this time? What's the greatest need, do you think?
I think, Heather, the important thing and the add values that we can bring, it's one with the families that broke, the family that broke, the fresh and the new widows, the people that in 7th of October or lost their dear ones through this war. And I think that if we can take care of these people in the National Leadership Center to a program that we created, we need to bring them to the National Leadership Center. We need to sponsor them and have scholarship to heal these families. I think that strong family is a strong nation. And in this day, the family are broken. They are broken. But we can start healing them. We can bring them together. We can bring the trust inside the families, the children that lost their dear ones. And we are going to bring them together. The second thing is the resilience activities that we are doing outside. We need to bring the students to heal. There's a generation now that is fighting in Gaza. We call them in Israel the TikTok generation, but they are fighting like lions inside. They are fighting like lions. But outside, there is students that needs to understand their purpose in life. They needs to understand why they're going to fight tomorrow morning, because there is a break in the contract between the government and the people. But we are going to bring the trust again with our curriculum, because we are very personal in the needs of every community around Israel. And the third thing, Heather, is important that we are going to bring a new generations of leaders that is going to lead this program. My trainers, my staff, professional people. We need to come and be strong and be enough that we can go for 5,000 families. This is the amount of families that I think that we can reach in a year. And this is our goal. But we have to be strong, we have to be focused, and my trainer have to be in the highest level of understanding what is the responsibility that is on their shoulders. because we are going to heal the nation. We are going to be strong, and it's going to be a huge victory here. And we are going to be part of that. It's going to take a couple of years, but we are going to be leading this effort, this national effort.
It's really remarkable. And I just look at all of the people on this call and the people that have been involved in this vision for more than a decade. So many people here, so many friends, and so many people that have sacrificially given and pray on the wall every day for this leadership center. And I just know that God is coming in with his presence there to do that mysterious work. You know, we can't heal people. God has to do that work to heal the heart, to recover people. But it is remarkable, the opportunity that is being given, and I can see why he's giving it. Eran, one of the things you and I have been working on, and is just this leadership program called the Nashon Institute, and it's kind of based on. It reminds me a little bit of Ron Nachman, the former mayor of Ariel, and he talked about Nashon, and it was sort of a Jewish folk tale, but it's about this guy that sort of went into the Red Sea ahead of everybody. When the Red Sea was closed and Israel was backed up, to the Red Sea, and there was no way out, and the Egyptians were on their tail, and they could have just been annihilated. And God clearly is going to open the Red Sea, but nobody knows that yet. Well, here comes this one little person who exudes the faith and dives into that water first and says, I'm going to exude my faith, and I'm going to be the one who believes. And he believed ahead of Moses. He believed ahead of the people, and he alone made that incredible dive into the water. Well, the Nashon Institute is a group, I think, of trainers that we're going to build. And I've always said that a staff is not ever better than its leadership. And it's another piece to this that's so important, even for everybody on this call to hear, that we are building the best trainers that Israel could have, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Talk a little bit about it.
So, Heather, I think when you start the journey in Ariel, you invest for the future of Israel, for creating young generations of leaders that is going to lead the nation. And through the years, we have a lot of successes, and we have a lot of testimonies. And as I said, the Ministry of Education and all the government, by the way, support very well what happened. I think now we are in a critical time in Israel that we have to bring the next generations of leaders and make them more stronger and more understanding about the purpose. The Nashon Institute is going to take leaders that we are going to choose very carefully. We are going to train them in understanding the meaning of what we are doing, the purpose of life in the deeper level of things that can happen here. They are going to speak about the roots of the Israel. We are going to speak about the Zionism. They're going to speak about the Bible, it's about the promise of the Lord that he promised Abraham, but we are going to make them believe. I think, Heather, one of the things that we are going to be here, we are going to develop a new generations of disciples that is going to bring the message outside. And for that, we need a process to bring them and to teach them. And they're going to work in the NLC, and they're going to grow and grow. In 2 years, I think we are going to have a team here of disciples that is going to bring the vision outside. And the NLC is going to be the base of everything. But we are going to start to bringing people that is going to the communities outside. They're going to the municipalities, to the high schools, everywhere. Leaders that is going to bring the message. And the Nashon program is going to bring them once in a week to learn, to ask the questions, to write works about it, to think about it, and they're going to have the most professional. We wants to bring them to a leadership seminar in the JH range, to see what is excellence, how things working in the best way with experience of 45 years. We are going to bring them, and we are going to bring an elite people that is going to lead the next phase of Israel, and they are going to be part of the process and the healing that we are going to know. And they are not going to come just because it's a place of work. They are going to come because they understand that the healing of Israel and building back the communities in Israel, we are going to be part of that, and they are going to be the Nashon. They are going to jump to any corner in Israel that they're going to need it. Why? Because the Lord said that to them, and they're going to understand it deeply. And for that, we have to create this institute, and we are going to do it, and we are going to do it in a way that all Israel is going to stand on the line and wants to be part of what we are doing. Because what we are doing, this is the basic issues, the human question that every citizen guy, a girl and boy in Israel asking today, and we are going to bring them the good questions, and we are going to give them answer for this situation also. The Nachshon Institute is going to be something that is going to lead the next generations of education values leaders in Israel.
Well, I am so glad they are going to be under you and Yaniv and your team, because y'all are the shepherds of this nation. And I can't think of anybody that I would rather put my child under than you. And I want to thank you for your incredible sacrifice. I don't know if y'all realize this, but Eran has 2 children in this war. One who was wounded about a month ago on the border of Lebanon, and heroically saved his friends, carrying them out with a broken ankle out of a bunker, and is rehabilitating at home. The other son, home today only, to light his last Hanukkah candle with his family before he goes back to the combat zone. He's in a combat unit in Gaza, and Eran is inside the dynamic of trauma. He understands what these families are going through. And Eran, our hats are off. You're one of our heroes. I want to just close this by telling everybody that we are at this point being offered a matching gift with Israel's Ministry of Defense for $300,000. We have a goal of $1 million to begin to really launch these rehabilitation efforts. And as you can see, they're already underway. I mean, we're already doing it, but they're going to have to go into full form, including the Nachshon Institute, where we're bringing in the trainers, we're doing all of that. But we have a wonderful opportunity, and we've got about 150,000 of that matching gift raised already. And it sort of leaves us now with the 300,000 and the 150,000. It leaves us with about $550,000 that we need by January. And I'm just going to put it out there to you. It gets us, if you can think to yourself, we're going to try to reach this is the minimum. We will be reaching 5,000 families or units, family units inside of 2024. That's where we're headed. It's going to be more because we've got at least 5,000 just in the schools alone. But we're probably going to end up being more, but conservatively 5,000 families. It takes about $200 per family. That's $1 million. The Ministry of Defense believes so much in this program that they're putting $300K in the midst of being stretched to the gills with where they are and what they have to cover in this war. They're putting a matching gift of $300K. So it leaves us with about 550 to go with what we've raised already. And I just want to leave that for all of you just to pray over as we light our candle tonight, last night of Hanukkah, as we go into the Christmas season, as we really begin our worship and we begin to experience with our families the goodness of this season and the goodness of our God. I just want to ask that you might consider that this is not a relief, send food in a package. This is a personal care, a process leading people out of trauma and into healing. That is where we're headed with the National Leadership Center. And I just want to thank all of you for attending this call, and may you have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and a wonderful holiday with your family. May the desires of your heart be met. So many of you have given and cared and have loved what's going on in Israel, and God is going to reward your family. He's going to give you back. You will never outgive him. So I just want to say a final prayer. Father, thank you. At Hanukkah, you are the light of the whole world. You know how to come and invade the darkness. You know how to work with people to get your job done on the earth. We thank you that you're going to give Israel a decisive and complete victory in Gaza and on the northern border with Hezbollah. We thank you, Lord, for the protection over the IDF and the special forces involved, the combat units inside of Gaza over this holiday. We thank you for securing the borders of Israel and creating the mighty deterrence that's going to be needed for the future. And we lift these efforts up in Israel's National Leadership Center, that you would go before us and clear the way, that you would bring in the resources for it. You would open the way for the trainers that we need to add into this fleet, some of the therapists that we're interviewing and wanting to bring in, that we will have everything that we need. And we just want to give you praise for this in advance. Amen. Have a wonderful holiday. So good to be with all of you.